Hi there, boys and girls. My name is Ken, and I'm here to welcome you to Casey's Train. So we have our track plan drawn out. We drew it out on paper, or perhaps we even found a program on the internet that enabled us to draw a track plan nice and accurately. But we've drawn it out on paper. We're basically happy with it, and we've now transferred it. In this case, because I'm using this plan that fits on a 4x8 sheet of plywood as an example, we've got it drawn. I've got it drawn on my garage floor, but pretend there's a piece of 4x8, a 4x8 sheet of plywood underneath there, and I've got the tracks plan, the center lines drawn out on that 4x8 sheet of plywood. Now we're going to build the benchwork that goes underneath this sheet of plywood. Benchwork. What is benchwork? Benchwork is the structure that supports your model railroad, the tracks, the scenery, everything on your layout. So from this book, How to Build Model Railroad Benchwork by Lynn Westcott, let's take a look at basic benchwork. Here on the cover you can see the basics, but let's turn to the page in here somewhere. Take a look at a little more detail as to what benchwork is. What I'm doing in this video is working on benchwork for a 4x8 sheet of plywood. And so there it is. The component parts of benchwork are, of course, legs, 2x2s, and girders. You can see there's a flange attached to this 1x3 or 1x4. Two girders. And then transversely, on top of the girders, we have joists. Supports for the legs, keep everything steady. Here's a picture of what it looks like underneath your legs and girders and joists. And here's a little picture of a fella constructing his benchwork for 4x8 sheet of plywood. One either item or part to your benchwork will be risers. And risers are these 1x3s or 1x4s here that will support your track. And a little diagram here, your joist and a riser and your track bed. So let's build one. I'm going to build a mini substructure, mini benchwork setup. It's certainly not rocket science, very easy, but again, if you're a newbie, if you've never done anything like this before, even the simplest things can sometimes seem quite complicated. So I'll run you through and I'll actually demonstrate the putting together of this mini substructure benchwork. First of all, the lumber I'm using for the legs, simple 2x2, spruce or pine. I use very inexpensive wood because the object is not to build a set of kitchen cabinets, it's to do some framework. You don't need nice fancy wood for that, unless that's all you've got. So these are going to be the legs. And to start with, 4 legs. These are only, as you can see, about 9 inches long. I would suggest that you make them 40 inches long. Depends on where you want your track to be the level elevation above the floor. If you want it at eye level, then of course these things need to be longer than 40 inches. But I found overall, in terms of view, looking down at your layout and also across your layout, this makes a nice elevation or level above your floor. So 2x2s for the legs. And we're going to build some girders, which consist of either 1x3s or 1x4s. And we're going to screw on a 1x2 on top of one edge to make a flange like that. Let's do that. So putting this thing together, I would suggest that you put your girders, you can put them anywhere you want, maybe 6 inches. I would suggest 6 to 9 inches in from the edge. This is a representation of your girder. And then do it such that your post, your leg, is maybe 6 inches from the end. So there's your girder. And of course, this leg is not going to be here, it's going to be down at the other end. And this girder is going to be 8 feet long. So here's a representation. The other girder. Here's your not your riser. This is your joists. So they would go. And you could put one at the very end. I'd probably put it in something like this. and then about 2 feet apart, the other joists, then all the way down. You can do that on a 4x8 sheet of plywood because you have a pretty straightforward track design. If you've got a bigger layout than this, you might want to decide, according to where your tracks are, where you would put your joists. You might want to move it, for example, here, because of these tracks, and I'll show you why now. So, you have your girders going the length of this, and your joists across, and then your riser. In terms of elevation for your track, the top of this joist is 0. It's very important on your whole layout to make sure that 0 here is the same elevation above your floor everywhere on your layout. If you've got a bumpy floor, sloped floor, uneven floor, you'll have to put some shims in or cut or whatever, and you need to use 8-foot long 1x2s, 1x3s, 1x4s as levels. Put your level on it and go from joist to joist to make sure that everything is level and everything is at the same elevation at the top of the joist. So what's a riser? Very simply, a riser is what you put onto the joists to get your track level that you want according to what you decided in your planning as to where your track wants to be or where you want to be the track. If you've got a good sized section of your layout that's going to be flat, say a yard or a town, and you want it at level 0, then you just take your piece of plywood and screw it on to the risers, nice and flat and at level 0. But if your track is moving upwards, you've got some grades, then you want to use risers. Two screws will do. I'll just put one in here. You'll want to get your track ribbon situated on your Benchwork grid so you know where to put these risers. And then, once you've got them in the right place, and if you happen to not have them in the right place, you can always do something like this. You can put a piece of wood out here, screw it in here, and your track can go out here. There will be some places where you will not be able to get your track on your risers for various reasons, wood in the way or whatever. So then you put your track on top of that. The experts suggest that you use a 1x1 to make a cleat under here and then screw the cleat from underneath into your roadbed. I found that to be too much work, and so I just screw it in from the top. But you want your roadbed, your plywood roadbed, to be about 3 inches wide. And I would suggest that if you're going to do it that way, screw it in off to the side and not in the middle. Because your track is going to go in the middle. And if you ever have to take that track off or find this screw, that's a little bit of a challenge to get the screw out with your track still on. So over here, you can take it out. I don't know why you might want to do that, but you just never know. So that is your track roadbed on top of your risers. Risers that will support the roadbed of the track will be going onto your joists. So according to this track plan here, where would we put our risers? We would put one here to support this track here, and over here we have track here. It's a little wider because we've got to turn out. So what I would do here is I would put a riser, say on this joist here, and then I would put a piece like this to support this whole width. And down here, same sort of thing. Up here on this particular plan, we've got a whole section here that's going to be at the same elevation. We're going to have a piece of plywood to support the whole thing, and so you would want a couple of risers. One here, one out here, maybe a 1x3 or 1x4 across there to support this nice and solid. We worked our way through the construction of Benchwork for a small layout supporting a sheet of plywood 4x8. I wanted to end this video by showing you a medium-sized layout. This is the drawing of one of my previous layouts. All sorts of curves. It was really quite delightful, a lot of fun to plan this, putting in all these curves, good sized yard, and bridges, trestles, a mountain. So I show you this now, and I want to end this video by just giving you a picture, showing you a picture that I took of the constructed benchwork for this layout to show you what benchwork looks like for a medium-sized layout such as this. Thanks for watching.